In this episode of Biblical Unlocks, we will go through a chapter of the Bible and make it make sense in your life today. Studies routinely show that reading your Bible regularly significantly lowers symptoms of depression, anxiety, and anger, whilst also increasing forgiveness, compassion, and a sense of purpose. So if you enjoy episodes like this, please consider following and rating the show. It's free, helps me out a lot, and you can always change your mind later. Enjoy the show. Okay, in this episode of Biblical Unlocks, we're going to go through Revelation chapter 17, and we're going to see a vision of a prostitute riding a scarlet beast. And we're going to see that this little representation, this image, is supposed to represent Babylon the Great. So you may remember from beforehand, but Babylon is supposed to represent immorality, persecution, deception, and spiritual corruption, because it represents an ancient city in the Bible, which we'll read about, I believe, in Genesis when we get up to it. And so it's not just representing a city, it's representing serious biblical themes that we're going to continue seeing later on. So I'm going to read Revelation chapter 17. We're going to go through some deep biblical unlocks afterwards. Okay, so let's get into it. Revelation chapter 17, the great prostitute and the beast. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute, who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have engaged in sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose prostitution the inhabitants of the earth have become drunk." So he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her prostitution. Then on her forehead was written a name, a mystery: Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abomination. Then I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of the witnesses to Jesus. Okay, so what do you think this woman represents, number 1? And why is she drunk with the blood of the saints? Next, verse 7 to 14. When I saw her, I was greatly amazed. But the angel said to me, "Why are you so amazed? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was and is not and is about to ascend from the bottomless pit and go to destruction, and the inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not yet been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will be amazed when they see the beast, because it was and is not and is to come." This calls for a mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. Also they are 7 kings, of whom 5 have fallen and 1 is living. And the other has not yet come, and when he comes he must remain only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but it belongs to the 7th, and it goes to destruction. And the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. These are united in yielding their power and authority to the beast. They will wage war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. Okay, so from verses 7 to 14, we actually finally get a description of the horns and the 7 heads, and I want you to reflect. What do you think the 7 heads and the 10 horns represent? We've actually come across this before, so if you watched a previous episode, you may actually know already. And who do you think this beast is? So what do you think this beast represents? Final 3 verses, 15 to 18. And he said to me, "The waters that you saw were the prostitute, where the prostitute is seated, are peoples and multitudes and languages and nations. And the 10 horns you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked. They will devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. For God has put it in their hearts to carry out his purpose by agreeing to give their kingdom to the beast until the words of God will be fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. Okay, so I want you to not miss this. This is really important. The powers that the prostitute rides on, so the waters and the beast, they devour her and they hate the prostitute and they will make her desolate and naked. So why do you think the powers that she relies on turns against her? Alright, time to go into some deep biblical unlocks. First, we see a prostitute who is seated on many waters. Okay, so what does this mean? Essentially, the prostitute represents spiritual adultery. That's what we see in other parts of the Bible as well. So, in Hosea 4:12-13, my people consult a piece of wood, and their divining rod gives them oracles, for a spirit of prostitution has led them away, and they have prostituted themselves, forsaking their God. So prostituting themselves does not necessarily mean sexual immorality, or whilst that is one aspect of it, there are other ways. So for example, in verse 2, and with the wine of whose prostitution the inhabitants of the earth have become drunk. Okay, so prostitution or lust is your loving creation. You're having an unchecked, selfish desire for something that is not from God. So when you prostitute themselves, there are many ways you can prostitute yourself and give up your body, give up your mind, give up your soul to something and forsake your God. In Hosea chapter 4 verse 13, we see something similar. They sacrifice on the tops of mountains and make offerings upon the hills under oak, poplar, and terebinth, because their shade is good. Therefore, your daughters prostitute themselves, and your daughter-in-laws commit adultery. We also see something similar in James chapter 4 verse 4. Adulterers, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. So again, we have a similar idea happening here, where adultery is represented as friendship with the world. Notice how in James there is a lot more, it's a lot more broad what is categorized as adultery. That friendship with the world is enmity with God. Okay, so the prostitute wears purple, scarlet, and gold and jewels. So remember, what do you think the scarlet, the gold, all of this represents? Obviously wealth, right? And then the seduction aspect here, where purple and scarlet and whatnot, all representing seductive capacities that she holds. Her name, what was her name? Her name was, what do you see? Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes. Now, this is echoing the ancient original city of Babylon, who is one of the original cities of rebellion against God's plan, right from the beginning. So we see in Genesis chapter 11 verse 4, then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, otherwise we shall be scattered abroad upon the face of the earth. So you can see that's what's happening there with Babylon, the ancient city of Babylon, which is the original representation of rebellion and going against God's divinely instituted plan. Oh, actually, I guess no one is really going against God's divinely instituted plan, because he knows what's going to happen and he permits evils of certain kinds. So I guess it's not really accurate to say that. We also see this in Isaiah chapter 47 verse 5, where he says, sit in silence and go into darkness, daughter Chaldea, for you shall no more be called the mistress of kingdoms. I just want to mention something really important as well here, where in Revelation 17, what we just read, we saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. So she's drunk with the blood of the saints, and it's a direct link to the persecution that Christians will face in the end times, but also what they've faced throughout history, because Christianity is the most persecuted religion worldwide. And we see this in a previous chapter, Revelation chapter 6 verse 10. They cried out with a loud voice. So these are the Christians who are being killed. Sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long will it be before you judge and avenge our blood on the inhabitants of the earth? So they're crying out, when will we finally stop being persecuted? And you know what God's response is? A little while longer. Just wait a little while longer, and you will be. I will rescue you. Okay, verses 7 to 14. This is where we see the beast that the prostitute rides on. I don't know if you noticed this, but they said that the beast was, is not, and is to come, which is a direct, it's a counterfeit copy of what Christ is, who was, is, and is to come in Revelation chapter 1 verse 8. So this is probably representative of a recurring political power, but I think this, in the context that this was written in, this is representing Rome. Okay, and the reason why is it's actually similar to what we saw before with 666 representing the Emperor Nero. Here it actually represents Rome, and Rome famously sat on 7 hills, right? So we see this again. 7 heads represents 7 mountains / kings. This is interesting because we don't really get an explanation for any of the symbols, except now we're starting to get it. For example, the 7 heads represent 7 mountains, 7 kings. So I already said that Rome famously sat on 7 hills, but it suggests a progression of kingdoms as well, because in because in the description that we get of the 7 kings, they say, of the 7 kings, 5 have fallen, 1 is living, and 1 is to come. So it suggests a progression of kingdoms. We also see that we have 10 horns, who also represent 10 kings who join the beast, but they only last for an hour. I don't know if you caught that. They only last for an hour, but they are to receive authority as kings for an hour, so a very short time. And they unite to wage war on the Lamb, but obviously the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen to be faithful. Okay, last 3 verses explanation. This is quite interesting. We have the downfall of the prostitute, which is interesting. And the reason why is because the beast and kings turn against the prostitute, stripping and burning her. So the beast and the kings, they were all united to fight against the Lamb. But then afterwards, the king and the beast turn against the prostitute, and they start to defeat her or break her down. And why is this important? It's supposed to represent the self-defeating and self-destructive nature of sin and evil. Babylon, the woman, is devoured by the same powers that it relied on. So evil alliances such as these will never stand. They will fight each other because sin is not according with God's divine plan. Because it even says here, and you can see this here, for God put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by agreeing to give their kingdoms to the beast until the word of God will be fulfilled. So God put it in their hearts to carry out his purpose. So we can see that even evil can carry out God's purpose in some way, because God put it in their hearts to carry out his purpose. Very interesting stuff here. And the verse to remember today is Revelation chapter 17 verse 14. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen to be faithful. Climax of the chapter shows that while even evil can unite to fight Jesus Christ, his victory is ultimate. And this reminds us who is the ultimate winner in the end. That's all for this episode of Biblical Unlocks. This podcast is designed to help you build your habit of reading the Bible, understanding the Bible, and applying it in your daily life. I upload daily, so if you don't want to miss tomorrow's video, please consider following and rating the show. Otherwise, have a blessed day. And remember, if you're not in your word, you're in your feelings. Godspeed.